Hey y'all, if you've ever looked at a door hanger and thought, how did they get it to pop like that? What is that amazing texture that's on that door hanger? Today I'm sharing 3 super fun ways to add texture and detail to your door hangers, and they're totally going to level up your painting without needing a ton of fancy supplies. Don't worry, even if you're a beginner, these are easy techniques that anybody can learn how to do, especially if you follow me step by step. Now, I'm not actually going to be teaching you how to do these techniques because that would be a really long video, but I'm going to be inspiring you and showing you 3 different ways you can add the texture. And I'm going to show you a video clip and a photo of each project. I've got 3 different projects for each technique to show you. A lot of these are designs that I have taught here on my YouTube channel. Many of them are ones we've taught behind closed doors in our Painters Clubhouse membership. And some of them are even from past events like our SA Live retreats. Number 1, this is probably the easiest and most accessible, and that is to use lightweight spackle. Yes, the stuff you patch holes with in your drywall. Who would have thought you can mix this stuff with paint and use it to create an amazing texture on your door hangers? Every time I use this, I am blown away by the results. It makes really cute frosting. It could look like whipped cream. It can add texture to something to make it look kind of scratchy. And so I've got 3 examples for you. The first one is this birthday cake door hanger. We taught this inside the Painters Clubhouse. We painted it. We pretty much finished it out, and it could have been done exactly as it was, but it felt like it needed something else, something to give it that extra pizzazz. And so we mixed lightweight spackle with a little bit of light buttermilk, like an off-white creamy paint, and made a fluffy icing-like texture. We used a cake decorating frosting bag with a star tip on the end of it, and we just squeezed it out in little dollops, just like you would decorate a cake or a cupcake with, and it really made that cake come alive. The second project example I have for lightweight spackle is this Happy Harvest door hanger that we taught inside the Painters Clubhouse. This one features a really cute little scarecrow, and it already has some 3-dimensional elements because we used 3D wood pieces to glue to the door hanger. But I thought, let's take it one step further and let's mix some spackle with a light yellow paint and actually use a palette knife to make it look like straw coming out from underneath the hat and out like hands for the scarecrow. And by doing that, it really gave it a rustic sort of feel. It simulated the look of actual straw. The third project example that I have for spackle magic is the XOXO cookie design. Now this one is one that you can go back and watch the full tutorial for right here on YouTube. We painted the entire design to look like frosted gingerbread cookies, but not Christmas gingerbread cookies, Valentine gingerbread cookies. And the frosting was done using nothing other than the lightweight spackle. This time we didn't have to mix any paint with it. We just filled our piping bag and we just piped it on there as if we were decorating an actual cookie. These cookies look like they're sitting on a plate, and it really created an overall wow factor that this door hanger didn't have before. If you're planning on trying this yourself, go pick up a cheap container of lightweight spackle in your local hardware store or even at Walmart, and then go over to the cake decorating section at Walmart and pick up a few of those piping bags and some frosting tips. You don't need 50 different frosting tips unless you want to go wild with this and really try a lot of different textures. You really just need a few to get started. Even if you've never used spackle before, this is one that is super easy to do. I want you to trust the process. It's just like frosting a cake. My daughter Charlie can do it, and she's only 10 years old. So go out and have some fun with this one. Technique number 2, these little bottles are called writer bottles. You can use these to create a really cool dimensional effect. A lot of times we think of these as being used as a fabric paint. I know back in the 90s, I used to decorate applique sweatshirts with my mom for Christmas, and we would use these to create little swirls or dots or whatever, and it really gave the sweatshirt some texture. Now we can use these on door hangers to create outlines, or, instead of using a paint marker, you could use this to create a fun little outline around your project. But I also love using these for creating a texture under the rest of your paint. So you're going to have to stick with me on this. I've got 3 examples of exactly how to use these little writer bottles to create texture underneath the paint. Project number 1 is from the Painters Clubhouse. This was a stocking door hanger. Now, when we painted this, we painted it red to start with, and then we used our writer bottle to create a sweater pattern, kind of like a cable knit sweater. And we just kind of drew out the lines that looked like they would have been the stitches, I guess. I don't crochet. I don't know what the correct term is. But we created a pattern that looked like a cable knit sweater. Once the Rider bottle paint was dry, we then painted on top of it with another color. We let that dry and then we sanded it to reveal the paint color of the Rider bottle underneath. And it gave it a really fun rustic look. If you want to up level it some more, you could even take a bit of glazing medium and mix that with a brown and create like an antiquing glaze. And you can smear that across it, wipe it off with a paper towel, and it's going to leave a little bit of that antique glaze in the nooks and crannies of these Rider bottle lines, and it's going to really make those details pop. If you saw this stocking door hanger hanging up on someone's door, you would probably have no idea how she created that. And so it's way simpler than you think, and we have a couple of tutorials in the Clubhouse that show this. The second example that I have for using Rider bottles to add details would be the Snowbird remix. This one we used to, again, create a cable knit sweater look on the hat of the snowbird. We also used it to create a texture on the scarf and the little balls at the end of the scarf. We kind of just added some texture in there by scribbling some of that in. And then we painted on top of all of that with like an off-white color so that the texture popped through. This time we didn't do any sanding. We just left it be, but it created a really cool texture on the project. Project number 3 for Rider bottles would be our summertime heart. This is one that has flowers, like tropical Hawaiian looking flowers. So before painting the entire design, we went over the outlines of each of the flowers and added some little details. We let it dry completely, and then we painted on top of that. And those textures then popped through the paint, creating a really cool dimensional effect to these flowers. And you could do this on any design. It doesn't have to be something that's winter for a cable knit sweater or florals. It could be anything that you want to add a texture to. So think outside the box here. Use a light hand. Don't squeeze too hard. If you need to, you can practice on a piece of scrap wood first before you start using that Rider bottle on your project, because it does take a little bit of practice to get the right amount of pressure and to figure out how to use these. Another pro tip is to keep a baby wipe on hand, because if you make a mark you don't like, you can easily just wipe it up. It doesn't have to be perfect, just playful. These little details will make your project pop. Moving on to texture tip number 3. This would be incorporating glass or beads with resin to make such a wow factor. This is probably the most advanced of the 3. If our spackle was the beginner or the easiest, and then our Rider bottle was more intermediate, resin and beads are probably a little bit more advanced. So this is going to make things super shiny. It's going to reflect the light. It's also going to really protect your project. But adding the beads or the crushed glass really create a whole other dimension to the project. So project example number 1 for this is going to be a poinsettia ornament that we painted at SA Live. SA Live is Southern Adoornments Live. It's a 2-day crafting retreat that we do once a year. We have fun projects that we do at these events, and we always do a project with resin. So we did poinsettias. We painted them red. We added some yellow to the center, and then we filled the center with gold beads. Just cheap beads that you would make bracelets or jewelry out of. We just picked them up in bulk. We sprinkled them right there in the middle, and then we poured resin over the entire thing, and that secured those beads right there to the center of that poinsettia, creating a really cool dimensional effect to the ornament. Project number 2 is a snowman ornament. Again, this is one we taught at Southern Adoornments Live. And by the way, I should have mentioned Cindy Manley from Art Shattered teaches these projects at all of our SA Live events. She's a dear friend of mine. You can look her up at artshattered.com. She teaches glass and resin projects every day. So shout out to Cindy. But this snowman ornament, we used teeny tiny little seed beads, like the little bitty beads. And these were kind of like a holographic shimmery color. And we sprinkled them all over this snowman ornament. And so that kind of created a look like snow falling over the little snowman. Now, if you're going to be resining on top of beads like this, sometimes the best thing to do is to cover your project in resin first and then sprinkle the beads into the resin, because sometimes these little seed beads will just scatter once you pour resin over them. So if you're particular about your placement, a pro tip is to put your resin on first, then put your beads in a little at a time, or just sprinkle them in, or maybe even use tweezers if you're really particular about the placement. That way they get stuck in the resin and they aren't sliding all over. But that resin is going to create a beautiful glossy effect, whether it's a door hanger, an ornament, or whatnot. The third project for glass and resin is one that I have done very recently right here on YouTube. You can go back and watch the entire tutorial here. It was night number 3 of our series doing 3 different ways to paint the pumpkin lantern project. And so each night we took it from beginner to intermediate to advanced. So this was the advanced night. We used foil to add some beautiful sort of mixed media sort of look to the project. And then we finished it off by adding crushed glass and resin and beads to this one. We put beads in the center of the sunflower and crushed glass down below on the pumpkin, and we covered the entire thing in resin, and it is absolutely stunning. So just be sure when you're using resin to work in a well-ventilated space. My preferred brand is Art Resin. You can pick it up at any local craft store or even on Amazon. And if you're a beginner, feel free to just put this one in your back pocket for later. It can feel a little advanced if you've never done resin before. So you might want to start with a really small project, just like we did the poinsettia or the snowman ornament. Doing an entire door hanger covered in resin may feel really scary if you're new to this. So start with something that you're going to feel confident trying first, or go start with one of Cindy's tutorials over on her Art Shattered page. She's got dozens of beginner ones. So whether you're frosting with spackle, adding letter with rider bottles, or bringing bling with the resin and the beads and all the things, you've got so many ways that you can make your door hangers extra special. I want to know down below in the comments, tell me which texture you are most excited to try first, or maybe tell me one you've already tried. Or if you have one that we didn't mention here, drop it in the comments. I love when our community shares with each other and inspires one another. And if you want more step-by-step painting fun and tons of encouragement, come join us inside the Painters Clubhouse. We would love to paint with you. You can find out more about that at paintersclubhouse.com. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.